The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
There's only one blood, cause there ain't no sense in us trampling on the stones. It's us, down to the bone. Blood is thick, waters were known well, cousins were kept apart, mothers were often memories. Fathers were not favorites on the farm, for he could do some harm, he could wreck the master scheme, for he, brothers, could dream. Your mama ain't no saint, your daddy died in a shallow stream, but your uncle Dr. King did have a dream, my brother. And what is your real excuse? Why can't you study your lessons and stay in school? Why can't you study your lessons and stay in school? Free love and sex.
Homeboy by Sunchi Ali. Welcome to the Qumran Report. May the peace and blessings of the life-giving creative spirit be upon you and upon your family. My name is Melvin Ishmael Johnson, coming at you live from Morris Media Studio. Our calling number is 1-323-293-3375. Now this week on the Qumran Report, we will talk about the prison industrial complex in the black community. Now, before we get into our in-studio guests, I would like to make an announcement about the If the Shoe Fit Short Play Festival coming up in June 2009 in relationship to Torture Awareness Month. If you would like to submit a short play about the prison industrial complex, please contact me, Melvin Ishmael Johnson, 213-908-5032. The email is dramastage1, that's the number 1, at yahoo.com. DRAMASTAGE1 at yahoo.com. Now, to start off our show today, I'd like to play a 2-minute clip from the play, If the Shoe Fit, Voices from Solitary Confinement, performed by Tone Taylor. And then we'll come back for introduction and discussions of our topic.
Before they caged the body, they caged the mind. They captured the soul by breaking the spirit with negative thoughts of nothing. Can you change a thought or capture the wind? It's not the prison guard with guns, but inmates and convicts who refuse to come one. No positive light. The prisoner's cage, the locks of the mind, negativity and self-hate. A refusal to be a positive light. Jealous of the next person because it wants to live right. Like a person without sight, darkness into the middle of the night. The real prisons are scales of the mind, locks of negativity standing in place and marking time. Those who challenge every positive thought, ask them why. Is it to hold you back? Without a doubt. But it is the system that caged the body. But first, they caged the mind. You hold the key to a positive mentality. Free yourself with positive thoughts. Don't be afraid to dream. Don't let your dreams become a nightmare. Negative thoughts are prisons of the mind, standing in place and marking time. Like the darkness of a soul, a ball of confusion, the truth must be told. Can't you see? Only the truth can make you free. Positive thoughts are healing for the soul. Free the mind and the body will follow. Before they cage the body, they cage the mind. It's not the prison guard with the gun, but inmates and convicts who refuse to become one. Negative thoughts are nothing. Taking honey from a bee make you kill your brother because you failed to see. Looking in the mirror and see yourself. That you hold the key to a positive mentality. That's the key. So unlock the door and come back to me. Merge with the totality of mentality. Take a vacation from madness, a trip from sadness. See the light open gladness. Days without night. Can you cage a thought? Or capture the wind? It's all an illusion, but I'll say it again. Can you cage a thought? Or capture the wind?
Okay, Tone Taylor doing Cage the Mind. Let's start off with, let's go around and introduce ourselves first and your organization, and then we'll come back and talk about you and your organization.
My name is Marcia, OG Big Mama Robertson. I'm from Watts. I'm finna start a nonprofit to help people change, because, you know, I'm changed. I practice on myself first. I'm a 2-time felon, ex-street hustler, you know, and just willing to change. And I could tell more about the thing I'm going to start as soon as I get everything going. I don't want to jump the gun.
All right.
Hi, my name is Kat. The name of my organization is Qumran Academy Learning Institute. I also am an independent contractor for the Revens Project. I am also partners with Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice, and I volunteer with 10 Toes In and Timeless Group. So I work with many different organizations and ARC as well.
Okay. We'll come back and talk a little about swag.
Sisters working against gang violence.
Sisters working against the gang violence and all that kind of stuff. So let's start off, Big Mama, telling a little about your background, how you got interest in this, what you hope to achieve.
Well, I run a record company, independent label. My company was OG Big Mama Records. Now it's Flatland Entertainment, Inc. And by what I've been through, I went to state, and then after I got out of state, I graduated and went to the feds. And from what
At what age?
Let's say I'm 55, so in my 20s. Maybe probably got out when I was in my first bid I did 19. I got 3-year bid, and I did 19 months. Then my next one, I was looking at 25 to life because, you know, it was my second enhancement. And by it being federal, they don't do like the regular thing. They go by points. And I'm like, oh, well, this is my first time in here. But no, they went by points, so it wasn't my first time. So if I'd have got struck out again, it would have been, you know, a possibility of 25 years, you know, for a drug conviction. So I was like, man, if I get out of this is it. You know, and I just prayed on it and started working on little programs and gave it to the judge and all that. And so the day that I had to go and I seen the judge was down the hall, I was like, God got here first. Because she was like, come on. Who ready to go get their sentences? Because I wasn't ready for that. You know, I found out what walking like a duck was in there. You know what I mean? Shackled on your feet. I found out from the feds. But, you know, I worked on myself while I was in there, you know, and came home and said, you know, I'm not perfect, and I'm not going to say my automatic change was automatic because it wasn't. But I lost my mom, be going on 4 years in February, and her last wishes was stop the hustling, finish school, take care of her great-grandkids and her grandkids. And so I had to get geared up, and because I prayed that my grandkids would never see me through the window. So I had to change.
What do you think was the environment that led to you getting caught up in the system? Can you talk about that a little? I
mean, I'm a hustler. And the reason I started the record company because I was hustling and my cousins picked me to be their manager and had to start a label. So, I mean, just growing up, my father died when I was 7. So my mom had to raise us, and it wasn't easy, you know. Being raised by one parent, it's a hard thing, especially the mother. You know, she came here from Boley, Oklahoma, you know, cleaning people's houses and stuff. You know, then had to go, you know, she tried nursing, it didn't work. You know, she tried sewing, it didn't work. So she ended up being a janitor at Compton Unified School. Mm-hmm. And she was like, what you doing, you have to change. And I was like, with the money I'm making, I ain't changing no time soon.
Tell us a little about Boley, Oklahoma. A lot of people don't know about Boley.
Boley, Oklahoma, where the black rodeo was started. Mm-hmm. It's just a little country town.
But one of your historic black towns.
Yeah.
Mount Bayou, Mississippi.
Billy the Kid, or one of them, was there, And, I really don't really know about the history, but just the black rodeo. But now I'm going to read on it more.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I talked to my cousin. She say everybody's moving to other places and stuff. So it's not like it was. My cousin is a farmer. Mm-hmm. Cattle, pigs, and stuff like that. So that's where I learned is different lives in different states. Mm-hmm. And what your environment is what you begin to be. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little about you. We'll come back over there to him.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. What was your question? I'm sorry.
Tell us a little about yourself, your organization, where you at. What we was talking about earlier, the impact it have on the family when you're trying to keep a relationship together.
Absolutely.
That involves incarceration.
Yes.
Can you talk a little about that?
Sure. My husband, Mr. Ronell, been incarcerated since he was 22 years old. He's been down for 33 years. And we built a business from behind the wall, started making T-shirts and apparel and working in the community. And so recently, last year, I was wrongfully terminated due to my relationship with my husband. So I'm in the process of dealing with that as well.
Terminated on your job?
Yes, on my previous job, yes. So I got off into the work. I started working with different nonprofit organizations. I started volunteering with 10 Toes In. The founder is Darlene Burke. And I also started volunteering with Timeless Group. The executive director is Yusuf Wiley. Mm-hmm. And then I started volunteering with ARC, Anti-Recidivism Coalition, Scott Budnick and Caesar, and I could just name them all, Sam Lewis and so forth. And then from there, Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice, LA chapter, David Gazar, we partnered. And now I represent the Revens Project located in Watts. Mm-hmm. The executive director is Akila Sherrills.
Tell us a little about that project.
That project, the project is called Faith Safe, which stands for Safety, Awareness, Fundamental Education. And I'm an advocate for victims and survivors. Anyone for violent crime. We have numerous of programs. We're getting ready to start a academy in Watts. So Watts is going to be doing a lot of things. We have a gang interventionist.
They have after-school programs. What's happening with that?
Yes, we have mentors that teach the youth, to help them with their career, anything that they have going on. In the community. We just had an event remembering those lost ones, loved ones, last week, Friday. Numbers of things coming up. My brain's just like going like...
Well, let me ask, what's the key to putting because the young people is so important, especially out here in a city like Los Angeles with so many different ethnic groups. What's the key to putting together a good after-school program for our young people, in Watts?
A good after-school program. We also have Gloves Over Guns, and the Mary, what is the name? Weather. He's a boxing.
Merriweather.
Yes.
Floyd Merriweather. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We also partner with him, and our kids go over there to his gym, and that also helped their state of mind, cognitive. We have to keep the young people busy, and men of color, black and brown, undeserved population. So with our academy, we also are partners with Akil Bashir. He's on board as well. So they have a whole training curriculum together to help these young men ages 16 through 30. So
in a little while, I'm going to play a clip from what I think is the best after-school program in Los Angeles.
Right.
And it's called OLA.
Oh, okay.
And it started by a brother named Tony Brown, even though it's probably about a 90+% non-African American program over in that MacArthur Park area. But I'll play a clip in a minute and hear what he got to say.
Okay, before I forget too, I don't want to leave out two other organizations. One, I'm part of the Sister Circle. We the founder is Lanisha Edwards, and I'm one of the co-founders. And Oya Sherrills and Maya is co-founder to the Sister Circle.
Now, how would our listening audience, how would they get in contact if they want to find out about these organizations?
They can reach us at area code 707-532-4930. And we're located in Watts off 108th Street in Watts at the Revens Project. And also I do collaborate with AORP affiliates and Offenders Recovery Program. The CEO and founder name is Bernard K. Cooper.
Let me ask you this before we move over. What's the biggest challenge in a relationship inside of the system and trying to keep that going over a period of time?
The biggest challenge is what your loved one is going through from behind the walls, because they're being oppressed daily. So the state of mind that you have to be there. From here, I have to be there. From there, I have to be here. So
you mean from a mental point of view?
Absolutely.
Thinking about what's happening.
Absolutely, because as a prison wife and a lifer prison wife, even though that was his sentence, life without the possibility of parole, but even though my God told me, yes, he's going to bring him home, but knowing that there's much work to do with having the resources, to go back to court, supporting other women who are dealing with the struggle each and every day. So that's a big challenge of us not being together. So you have to, even though we're not physically together, but that spiritual connection.
Okay. Let's hear about Swag. I want to hear about how that started and then your story also.
I apologize for
we understand.
Interruption. I'm like very sick. But when Bobby calls, I can't say no, so I actually checked out the hospital and drove from Palmdale to make it here. So, God is good.
Get you back now. Gotta get you back. You should take it easy a little.
But Sisters Working Against Gang Violence, I had tried to work with a couple of organizations, several of them. And what happened with my story is I got married to my husband in 1989 in Folsom State Prison. He got caught drug trafficking one particular day that I was there. Well, he got caught and I didn't. They let me go because he had contraband on him. So when you surround your world with one particular person, I mean, he was my everything. And when they took him away from me and put him in a SHU program, I didn't know how to act. And it was like, he kept saying, you need to save money. You need to do this. You never know when something's going to happen. So he tried to prepare me. But he had paid for me to go to a drug recovery. I was also an addict. And that worked for so long until he got busted and I came back to LA because I actually had moved to Sacramento. And I just went back astray in the gang banging and the all of these other things that I involved myself with. So when he went to the SHU, then that ended you weren't allowed to visit him anymore. I wasn't allowed to visit her. It stopped our family visit. And I came back home and I started doing me. So
that was a big challenge.
After years of dating different men and cheating on my husband, he still stayed around. He says to this day that he just kept hope alive. And thank God he did. So like I said, I used to hang on this corner on that Normandy and Adams. And Skip Townsend from Second Call, he rescued me. And he kept telling me, come to Second Call meetings, and I did. Then my parents died.
Sorry for that.
And it takes some to die in order for others to live.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew that I was all alone and that I had to get it right. So my sister owned the transitional home, and she was like, just come stay here. Excuse me. So I was laying in the bed one day, and I'm like, I have to start my own
Nonprofit.
I have to do my own thing because nobody's seen my vision, what I wanted. So I'm like, what can I name this? And everything that I seen was men creating organizations and things about men. And I'm like, well, what about the sisters?
Right.
And so I was like, swag. And then so I'm like, but it has to do with violence. Because I wanted to put back in the community what I had taken out of it. And awesome. So I was like, swag me, Sisters Working Against Gang Violence. And then I started doing things, and because I stayed at the transitional home, my sister didn't charge me rent. So I was able to keep all of my money, and that's how I was able to do different things, like Bobby got a studio time.
Yeah,
Bobby Buck.
And the things that I done with the kids, I began doing it. And then I hooked up with a lady named Renee Wright. And she's from Evangelistic Reach Out Ministries. And she was like, hey, Bubbles, I need a gangbanger to go inside the prisons with me. And I took it as a joke, like she was trying to be funny. So I started traveling, going to different states, crossing state lines, going inside the prisons, telling my story. And everybody was like, well, do you get paid for that? And I'm like, no, all our airfare come out of our own pocket. We have to pay for the hotels, for our food. And sometimes I would go on those trips with like $25 in my pocket after, but God provided, and He made a way.
All the time.
I started adopting kids and young guys whose mothers, they would tell their mother about me, and I would start getting calls from their mothers, and they was like, thank you. I don't know what you guys did when you came in there, but, a lot of times the guards, you would see the guards like, this is amazing. A lady guard, you would see them crying because we weren't just regular ministers when we went in there. We were raw and uncut. We had them dancing and praising. And
well, let me ask you. There's two things, because I've been watching what's been happening lately in these elections and all that kind of stuff, and it seemed to be a time where the gate have really opened for women's to really get support. I'm talking about for the programs that they need to push.
Right.
And I hope you guys begin to think about that by getting your proposals together, submitting them now. A lot of people don't like Donald Trump. I'm not really a fan, but I'm not so much interested in him as I'm interested in his policy that affect the black community. And one of them is prison reform. And we haven't had that. We didn't get that with President Obama. We didn't get that with Clinton. We didn't get that and all that kind of stuff like that. That's one thing I want to, I hope we get a chance to talk about a little bit more. But let me ask you about the whole concept of religion and spirituality. How important is that on the inside? Starting from the inside and then from the ones that on the inside, how important is that spirituality, religion in terms of survival?
The religion and inside, behind the walls, plays a big part.
100%.
Warden King in Angola State Prison, he actually put a Bible seminary in the prison. very successful. It's like deacons and bishops and
training.
Yeah.
Okay.
She wanted to talk a little bit about it.
Well, when I was in state, I really didn't do church much. But when I was in the Fed, I was running the choir in church.
Oh, awesome.
Really, I was really in the church when I was stuck in Missouri, you know, and I couldn't see my family. And, you know, it was a big change for me. You know, I was raised in the church. I had to stay at Bible, you know, go to Bible school and Bible study after church in the summer and all that. But then once I got in high school and I could do what I had to do for myself, you know, before I got out of high school, really honestly, I started hustling in junior high school, you know, because everything, like I said, when I lost my father, it was a big change. And, you know, my mom, it was hard for her. And I was like, I got to do something so it don't be hard for her and she could get the things she wanted. So when I got out of junior high school, you know, you have to go get this summer job. Went and got a job downtown, and it was at the Federal Building, cleaning offices. And then at the same time, the guy who was over me for working wanted to have sex with me. And I was like, man, I don't think I'm going to be working no more after this. So once I went to high school, my hustling really got worse. You know what I'm saying? I was hanging on the gym field and all that. My mom started letting me drive her car. I wasn't even going to school. So that's I really got in the streets.
In the Watts area?
Yeah. Yeah. I stay right off of Avalon, 93rd. So I just really started making money after high school. It wasn't easy because, you know, it's a lot of trials and tribulations, but I'm going to start something called House of Watts Entrepreneur Academy because it's all in your head, you know, and it's all about fear. We scared to fail. You know.
Let me ask you this, because I know you have to leave in a little while. What's the message that you would like to leave out to
our listeners
that can impact, you know, your life? You know, you can impact people that was in the same situation you was in.
Don't let the fear hold you back. And if you can go to the jail, you can work for the 5 cent and the 25 cent and the dollars. Come out here and learn how to do it for real. And, you know, don't make this a vacation and, you know, make that your home. You know, because, I mean, I went back and went to the feds, but I ain't been back since.
Awesome.
You know, and it's like how it is now, it's nothing they don't know. It's cameras everywhere. All they got to do is it's a number they can dial in and your phone. Yeah. They got you. So once you get on the radar, it's a wrap.
How about what contact information for those that would like to contact you, get involved with your organization, your plans?
You can go to my website, www.ogflatlandent1.com, or just call me, 323-602-8233. Because the other organization I'm going to start to get, you know, a nonprofit, I want to really change lives.
Right.
Life reconstruction. You know what I mean? So I worked on myself to reconstruct myself, and I'm going to change, creation in God. So if I can do it, and I was really smoking weed and all that, and you know what I'm saying, I stopped smoking weed.
Let me ask you this. I've seen, because I know Bobby working, we've been working down in the Skid Row area for quite a while. And one thing I've noticed over the last 15 years is the increase of so many females coming out of prison, especially sisters that end up down there. What kind of message would you have for them? You see happening.
Well, sometimes it's a guy for the females.
A guy?
You know what I'm saying? That they following behind. You know what I mean? So if it's a guy that you following behind, we need to do better. You know, find you a better guy. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? And if it's a female that you following, same thing. Find a better female. Just change your company. You know what I mean? Because I cut loose a lot of people I was dealing with. Because the whole time I was hustling, I was a giver. They say pay it forward, I always paid it forward. But you know the same thing, I was thinking, who pays it forward for me? You know what I mean? Because I done helped a lot of people. But when you in need, they ain't there for you. You on your own. So we have to think about the company we keep and the people we deal with and the people we help. If they ain't helping you, you got to let them go. Right. You know?
Okay, then. I know you got to get out and give us your name one more time and let final comment.
Marcia OG Big Mama Robertson. And another thing, I'm graduating with my AA in music technology from Los Angeles City College.
Beautiful.
So if I can change, anybody can change.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
See y'all later.
All right. Thanks very much. Let us let's do a clip of Tony Brown that started Ola and talking about after school program.
All right.
Now, how can the city create more after-school programs like Ola, especially in gang-infested areas, since we know Ola went into a gang-infested area and was successful? Mm-hmm. How can we use that as a model for a lot of the little areas in the city of Los Angeles?
Sure. I think one of the things to do is to start with someone who really, really cares to spend consistent time with the kids in that neighborhood, wherever that neighborhood might be. Mm-hmm. And I think the consistency is key when you're starting something out. Now, I get it. You're a volunteer. You have other things you have to do. My predecessor, our founder, probably ran into the same challenges when he was first starting out at Heart of Los Angeles. But if you're going to be there on a Saturday, be there every Saturday. Pick one day a week. Start that way. Don't try to say, I'm going to start this nonprofit and I'm going to, open the doors. I'm going to be here every day and we're going to make this work and this is going to be incredible. Do what you can do and do it consistently. Mm-hmm. Because, these kids rely upon a lot of hope. Hope for an alternative, hope for a brighter future than the one in which they're living. And we're talking about going into gang-infested neighborhoods. They've been let down many times in life. Mm-hmm. And that's part of why they've joined the gang. Mm-hmm. Because the gang has come in and said, hey, listen, I know this person's let you down. I know that person's let you down, whether it's your parents, your school. But don't worry, me and the homies, we're there with you. Mm-hmm. We won't let you down. And so if you're going to create something, make sure you don't overcommit. Mm-hmm. And do what you can do and do that consistently. Mm-hmm. I think that will help you launch something that kids will want to come back to. Because trust is a major issue. That's what's been broken. I think, our country has this social contract that we're going to take care of our children. Mm-hmm. We're going to send them to schools that are safe. We're going to, create neighborhoods and parks that are safe for them to play in. We're going to give them outlets to where they can be creative and express themselves without being bullied for it or without being, jumped into a gang. We're going to do all these great things. Well, if you're going to take this on, recognize that you have a responsibility then, right, to be consistent and to be someone that these kids can trust.
One of the founders of Ola, one of the most successful after-school programs you have in Los Angeles. But let me ask you this. Can you talk about why do you think females get involved with gangs? How they get caught up? Can you talk about that a little and some advice that you can warn them about?
I think it would be the lack of love, attention. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the fathers aren't in the home. Well, in my case, that wasn't it because I was in a 2-family home and I went to private school all 12 years. Mm-hmm. I was the youngest out of 9, but I was the one that they pressed and pushed and stayed on the hardest.
The family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes it's just looking for love in all the wrong places. Mm-hmm. Well, being the youngest out of 9, all of my brothers and sisters left. And I was home, so I became a product of my environment. Mm. The only thing I really was allowed to do was go to the skating rink. And that's where everybody grouped up at.
Right, hung out at.
So I was like...
Well, the different gangs and stuff like that?
Yeah, different gangs and all the neighborhood kids. And
you couldn't be neutral, right?
Well, a lot of the kids that we went to the skate rink with, they were predominantly Bloods that was at the skate rink. Mm-hmm. So it was just like different sets of Bloods. Now, when we went to Rosecrans skate rink,
okay.
That was a different story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the same question: What you think so many females get involved with gangs. Can you elaborate a little on that too?
Absolutely. And like Mud Diva said, that's what I call her name, Mud Diva. The lack of love. Unfortunately, I was never put on a set, but I hung around a lot of gangbangers, the schools that I were going to, and just being around. And then the guys that I was going with were gangbangers. So that's how my circle population, and then my brother, and just growing up. So that's looking like she said, the whole, even though my mother and my father were married, in the household, but it's just when you go to the school and the kids that you're influenced, meaning, I was always a leader, not a follower, but I just hung out. And I'm the only girl, so I had brothers. So that pretty much is the neighborhood that you live in. So,
Bobby, you going to join us?
Come on, Bobby. But
look, let me ask you. I want to talk a little bit more about the prison system and the stress that it put on the nuclear family.
Yeah.
Can you have a few more comments like that? Talk about that.
Absolutely, we have
the biggest problem in dealing with that.
It's a big problem, and that's why there are nonprofit organizations that have support groups to help prison wives. They create a safe space for you to share what you're dealing with on a daily basis, what you're going through with your relationship. Just like 10 Toes In, they educate society as to why women choose to be in relationships.
What's the name of that one?
10 Toes In. The founder is Darlene Burke.
Tell us a little about that.
Well, her organization educates society as to why women chooses to be in a relationship with a prisoner from behind the wall. They also, it's just a great safe space. The address, I believe, is in Long Beach at Church One. I believe it's the first Tuesday or second Tuesday of the month. And she also have a mentorship program for men. Those who coming out from behind the wall, they still need a support group as well. Yeah. She also goes inside the prisons and teach about relationships, prepare the men how to be for when they come home to be with their wives, because it's not easy, because you're looking at a marriage. So you've been living in a cell for this amount of time, and then you coming home to your wife, and then the kids and so forth. So your state of mind, you have to get adjusted to that and know how to treat your wife. The one that's been there for you, down for you, and then as soon as you come home, everybody want to be there. Okay, but who was there? Who was sending you packages? Who was accepting your phone calls? Who was writing you letters? So the wife has a very big role to play in this, and is dealing with a lot of loneliness, or
Well, I've worked with. Have you had a chance to work with getting the assistance from Maxine Waters?
No. Well, I'm in Watts right now, so I will be dealing with Maxine.
Yeah, because I know a few years ago I worked with. I helped Georgiana Williams set up an after-school program in that Crenshaw Norm. Her son was was football. Was the one that got caught up in the in that ride where they were saying that he was caught up in that Reggie dinner thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Maxine Waters was helping him for a while, and so I had a chance to work with Georgiana when they were celebrating the yearly. Right at that Normandy,
at
Florence and Normandy area up there, we did a concert. Because I think, those are kind of programs now that really needs funding. Right. Because so many of our people, especially out here in Los Angeles, is caught up in the prison system. Absolutely. And they come out, and the longer that you locked up, the farther you get behind in this high-tech society. You need retraining.
Absolutely.
And so many, and we've seen all these tent cities that have popped up in the Skid Row area, which is just ridiculous. Yeah. That's a whole nother issue.
That's my buck forte.
So, Bob, talk a little about
Melvin it though.
talk a little about your program, what you're doing, and what you got coming up. how you got involved with Skid Row and all down there.
Well, I got involved in Skid Row was kind of an accident, but I tell people it happened accidentally on purpose because there's a purpose behind it. But like I said, I was already homeless because I came from Arkansas. So, and what happened, I was staying somewhere, and they went up on the rent. By me being on disability, I didn't want to pay that much money for the conditions I was living in. I said, why spend that type of money if I can live that way for free? But then what happened, somebody gave me an address. I didn't really know what Skid Row was. But I had seen it before, but I didn't know exactly what it was. So somebody gave me an address to go to the Union Rescue Mission. So, but they didn't say where it was at. So when I got down there, I seen all that stuff. I was like, wow, this is where I'm at. But then I went and I got a bed for a week, then another week, then I ended up staying there. So then that's when I met Coach Ron, General Jeff, and OG Man. Those were the main first three people I met. And then I seen it was spiritual. And then, I was homeless. I said, wait a minute, I'm meant to be here right at this moment in time. So I took ownership of being homeless, and I took it and ran with it, and just started networking.
Amen.
Well, let me ask you. I know, we did this play called Nailheads years ago. At that time, they had 100,000 people sleeping on the streets of L.A. in the county of Los Angeles. Now, that was 6-7 years ago when we did Nailheads, because we performed it at the Staples Center during the after one of the Clippers games.
Okay.
And you didn't have all of these tents and stuff that's everywhere now.
No,
and yet and still, that's why I don't buy it. And then I look at the figures, and then they say, oh, it's 50-some thousand people in the county of Los Angeles that's homeless. How could that be when we didn't have all those tents?
Yeah.
When you got twice as many tents that runs all the way down. Everywhere you look, you got tents and stuff like that. Mostly African American and all that kind of stuff like that. Why do you think the activism down there haven't been able to get their hands on dealing with that problem, getting a hold on it, because it keeps growing and growing and growing.
That's it.
I believe it turned into a whole nother culture. I think it's all in the psyche of people, because like we say the word homeless, it's like, it is what it is. It's just another culture, seems like.
Like he said, too, drugs.
I think a lot of drugs has to do with it.
Yeah, and high rent.
Well, do you think now? You know, California prison system. Pretty sure you know about. They have levels where they move from level 4, level 3, level 2, level 1 is usually where you got halfway houses, all that kind of stuff like that. Do you consider Skid Row to be a level 1 facility?
I think Skid Row's a level 4.
You think that?
Well, see, a level 4 is high security.
Yeah, that's GP, general population, right?
Yeah, that's the shoe we were talking about a minute ago.
Yeah, well, my husband done a 24-month shoe term in Pelican Bay. So,
and that's what that's what If the Shoe Fit was about. Half of the letters and stuff that we got came from Pelican Bay. You remember when they started the SCRAC? They started the hunger SCRAC, the 4 of them.
And then they only let them have so many pieces of paper in their cell. And at that time, you only could come outside and to take a shower. And I had a conversation with my husband a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about how the new generation is coming in and, like, they really think they running something in the prison. He said, and he meant no disrespect, and he told him, well, what's wrong with you? Was your mama on Sherm or crack? And they're like, big homie, why you come at me like? And he's like, because I'm really trying to figure out mentally what's wrong with y'all. He said, because you come in here acting like you run something, and you only been in here 5 days, when it's old people like me that been here for 30 plus years. Yeah. And then my husband told me he's been there 36 years, but there are still guys that are in there that are older than him. Wow. And he said before they used to like when you came on the yard, the first hour belonged to the car. Like if you was a blood or if you were a crip, the first hour belonged to you. They would exercise. He said they done it for a couple of reasons. They done it so they could find out who was on the yard. Mm-hmm. So if something happened, they would know how to count, when somebody's missing. Mm-hmm. He said, and that was for safety, Mm-hmm. He said, and then just to let everybody, we talked and mingled and what was going on. Then the rest of the yard time was yours. He said, but the CDC department has broken up all of that because they don't want structure among,
Well, let me, I'm going to read something that come from the Pelican Bay, what they were doing in 2012, and where I think is so important for these organizations out here to make this known, especially among the youngsters. It's called the Agreement to End Hostilities. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to touch on a couple of pieces from here. And it said and this is from PBSP, Shoe Short Corridor Hunger Strike Representative, when they was putting this strike together. And I think this is one of the most important documents that you got in the whole California prison system. Yeah. And it's where it should be made known, because they understood it from being locked up in the shoe for such a long time. And it says, therefore, beginning October the 10th, 2012, all hostility between our racial groups in SHU, ADSEG, general population, and county jail will officially cease. This means that from this date on, all racial group hostility need to be at an end. And if personal issues arise between individuals, people need to do all they can to exhaust all diplomatic means to settle such dispute. Do not allow personal, individual issues to escalate into racial group issues. Wow. And then another paragraph that they made in here. In conclusion, we must all hold strong to our mutual agreement from this point on and focus our time, attention, and energy on mutual causes beneficial to all of us, the prisoners, in our best interests. We can no longer allow CDCR to use us against each other for their benefits, because the reality is that collectively we are an empowered, mighty force that can positively change this entire corrupt system into a system that can actually benefit prisoners and thereby the public as a whole. See, and see, and what I get out of this is we're talking about lifers. Yeah. It's not going to change from the outside. Mm-hmm. See, but coming together on the inside, that's why I consider this to be one of the most important documents starting here in California. See, but the inmates on the inside, they did their job. They put this together. Right. Now it's up to these activists, these prison activist groups that's working with these youngsters, because we still got this mess jumping all around here. You got the whole Latino, African American conflict and all that kind of stuff, where people getting rich and rich and rich.
And that's it exactly. We're supposed to help those. Mm-hmm. Help those like for lifers that have got out. We're supposed to help those that have been left behind. Yep. But so many of them, I mean, I've been going back and forth with someone about it. So many other people who have gotten out and start making it a business.
Oh yeah, but and then see, and how you stop that is you got to expose them. See, and that's what you. But at the same time, because see, the reason it's a business is because it's a gap there, and they jump in that gap. They take advantage of the gap that's there. See, the gap that's there is supposed to be organization what you're talking about right now. That's where the funding is supposed to go. That's where the money is supposed to go. And I feel that we got to approach this thing from two ends. See, we got to start from all of the brothers that got caught up in doing this long time. A majority of them were Black Panthers that people forgotten about. Right. But they still, Herman Wallace, you talking about the Angola 3 and all like that. All three of these brothers were Black Panthers. See, and we go back with J. Edgar Hoover that made up his mind he was going to destroy the Black Panthers. And the ones that he didn't kill, they put them in jail to die. Mm-hmm. Okay, we got a phone call coming in, and we'll pick up on the topic. Hello, who am I speaking with?
Reginald Fagan.
Brother Fagan, I thought you'd be sitting in here today.
Oh, brother, I had an emergency. I couldn't get there. I'm sorry.
Okay, what you have a question or comments for our guests here?
Well, I'm just, kind of getting on tune, but definitely on the industrial complex. I was just talking to a gentleman last night, and he was sharing with me, just how it's just profit driven. And, I was just explaining to the young man that, the thing that we have to really be mindful of is geared towards, us, anytime we get upset and get angry, whatever, it's just kind of it's like quicksand. Mm-hmm. And it's just focused around trying to profit off of us, and he was explaining to me how he had a situation where the judge had released him, but then they had to take him back to the cell and then take him over to another location, and each time they made $500. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's just really transportation. Yeah, so they're just looking at any kind of way they can make money.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, Brother Fagan. Would you like to ask a question to one of our guests here?
Well, I'm concerned about the prostitution for profit. There's been a big push where these prosecutors are making money for prosecuting people. What do they think about that?
Mm-hmm. Either one.
Yeah, basically, it's all it's about.
Yeah, they're having, we call that human sex trafficking. At my organization, we deal a little bit with human sex trafficking. We deal with domestic violence. And again, it goes back to these females looking for love in all the wrong places. Mm. And then you have these young gang members having them on the street where they have to sell their bodies. Wow. And if they don't, they'll get beaten. Well, I myself, excuse me, and a couple of women have walked out there on Figueroa and tried to make a difference. And in return, right now, we're trying to find a home to house some of these girls. They're scared to break away because where their finances going to come from? Where is their lodging, their food? So I've been really praying about it and speaking about it with a mentor of mine. And we're trying to figure some things out, but those take grants because I, in no forms, want to take their money. We have to teach them and train them as if they were children. Right. And so there has to be a kitty. You're going to have to save your money and then get to the point where you can migrate and be out on your own. But then these domestic violence shelters, they are, you can't let people know where you are. And that's another problem. Okay. Some of these women,
Okay. All right, Brother Fagan, thanks for calling in. I can't wait to do an entire show on you. Just let me know when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. You keep up the good work, Brother Melvin. We really admire what you do in the community. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Brother Fagan.
All right, take care now. Thank you.
Now, what I was saying earlier, because I'm going to play another little clip in a minute from Tony Brown, is where I think it's so important to attack this issue from both ends. The brothers that's been locked up doing life and all that kind of stuff, it's important to deal with that situation to begin to develop programs and stuff in terms of rehabilitating. The goal is to get them back to the street eventually.
And a lot of the inmates on the inside, they have they've created, and women. I was with a woman at your event.
The Sister Circle event.
And now she's an evangelist. And they're making up these curriculums inside. You know, that's
Good.
But my thing is, what I had a problem with is, just like the system is using it for profit, they're coming home. My thing is, each one teach one. You give back to those that are left behind because their hands are literally tied behind their back. So you're doing it for profit, just as the prison system is doing. But not the last thing I want to say about that is, and then your dialogue and within your work, you're not even following it yourself, because if I say one thing to you, and it's that easy for me to piss you off, and there's a lot of people know that sometimes I'll try you and I'll test you and I'll see if I can push that button, and I'm like, hey, you need to take your own class because you did. So you have these inmates coming on trying to train these kids and do gang intervention, and then they still have flaws themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Let's see what Tony Brown say about gang intervention.
How do you craft after-school programs that deal with gang intervention? We talked about a little of it a little earlier.
Well, first of all, Heart of Los Angeles tries, I think, step one is to do the prevention side, right? I mean, we want to prevent kids from joining them in the first place. So we start with kids really young, but we do meet kids along the way. We're middle school and high school, and there are times in which we have to try to intervene. The answer to the question, I think, really is create alternatives that are relevant. Create opportunities, alternatives that will help those kids to feel connected to what's happening in their neighborhood, at their school, in their life. I think a lot of kids, well, at least in our neighborhood, the gangs tend to prey on those kids who are having problems with the language. If they have a kid who doesn't speak much when they're spoken to, very shy about language, they become a target. If they see kids who, are trying to push away from their parents, walk a few steps ahead, walk a few steps behind, don't necessarily want to be associated. If they see kids who are starting to try to emulate this pop American culture, all of those things, and kids don't realize this, but all of those things become identifiers. Pick me, for the gangs. They say, because they'll come in and their psychology might be something like, so, I see that your parents you always have to walk these 5 blocks alone. Well, let me guess, your parents aren't around, they must work all the time. Let me guess, they basically tell you to come straight home, turn on the television, and don't go outside. Man, my dad was the same way. Oh, you have a dad? Yeah, actually, I don't have a dad either. And they start to do all those things. They try to pull away any connection the child has to staying away from gangs. And they try to drive those wedges in between what connects kids to this culture here. I bet you're doing really bad in school. Yeah, I get it. They don't get you. They don't get us.
Wow.
And they do that. And so after-school programs should be the ones to come in and say, hey, listen, we value who you are. We have all the patience in the world. We believe that if we give you a chance, you can realize whatever dream you have. It's not a silly dream. And we support the kids in that way. And we let the kids be the kids. And we let them feel important for who they are and who they'd like to be. And even if they don't know who they'd like to be, we still give them that confidence, try to empower them to feel good about who they are right now. And that it's okay not to necessarily know quite yet. And we start to expose them with the arts, music, athletics, dance, painting, graphic arts, filmmaking, anything and everything, robotics, anything and everything, to give them alternatives so that they have to then, when they're faced with the alternative of getting involved in some sort of criminal activity, they can say, you know what, I don't need to do that over there, because if I did all of that over there, I'd be giving up all of this over here.
Got about another minute, a little over a minute. It'll take about 15, 20 seconds, get some final comments, and make sure that you give your contact information. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I thought this was a very important, show. But if you want to get in contact with Sisters Against Gang Violence, we also have a prison ministry, and it is swag as well, but it's Soul Winning Ambassadors of God. You can reach us at sistersworking@gmail.com or Carolyn Hamilton on Facebook. The phone number is area code 323-830-2161.
Okay, Bobby.
All right. You can check me out on bobbybuck.com, and you can hit me up on the email at buck@bobbybuck.com.
Kat Perkins. Also, I'm hosting the radio show tonight, Survivor Speak Radio. My co-host is Philip Rock, but you can reach me at area code 707-532-4930. Name of my organization again is CALI, stands for Qumran, Cat and Ron, Academy Learning Institute.
Okay. So a special thanks to my in-studio guests. A very important discussion. Please listen to past shows of the Qumran Report by Googling in Qumran Report. Thank you for tuning in to the Qumran Report. From your host, Melvin Ishmael Johnson, may the peace and blessings of the life-giving creative spirit be upon you and upon your family. I leave you with Homeboy by Sunji Ali.
Peace.
Yeah.
Homeboy. Brothers, there's only one blood, cause it ain't no sense in us trampling on the stones. It's us, down to the bone. Blood is thick, waters were known well, cousins were kept apart, mothers were often memories. Fathers were not favorites on the farm, for he could do some harm, he could wreck the master's scheme, for he, brothers, could dream. Your mama ain't no saint, your daddy died in a shallow stream, but your uncle Dr. King did have a dream, my brother. And what is your real excuse? Why can't you study your lessons and stay in school? Why can't you study your lessons and stay in school?